Is it still worth it to turn an Optiplex into a gaming PC? Yes, it is. Here I have an Optiplex that I recently turned into a gaming PC. It came with an i7 6th Gen, 16GB of RAM and a 512GB SSD. It cost me €150 to buy the thing. I then threw in a 1650 Super and a bunch of other things like this vinyl wrap and the acrylic side panel, and all in all it came out to be around €300. Here are how some games performed on it. So in Fortnite performance mode I was getting about 165 FPS, which was pretty smooth. Turning the settings up gave me around 70 FPS, but that was a lot less stable. Overall it was pretty good though. In Warzone I was getting around 60 FPS because the CPU was the bottleneck. That's just how it's going to be in some games. So I turned the graphics settings up and got 55 FPS on Ultra. CS2 was also a CPU bottleneck, but it wasn't as bad because the game is easier to run. On very high settings I got about 82 FPS. So after looking at the test, the CPU and the GPU are pretty well balanced. I would say to limit your expectations on games that are more CPU bound because the CPU is definitely on the older side. But other than that, in the games I tested, it was perfectly smooth and playable. Also to note, 16GB of RAM is a must if you want to recreate this yourself. Most of the games are using around 10GB, so if you go with 8, it's going to put you at a disadvantage. Another thing to note is that the i7 was getting pretty toasty in here. I'd assume this is probably because the case and the cooler are pretty small, but it could also be an issue with my own system. Other than that, there's not much more to say. I'm going to try and flip this, so make sure you subscribe to see that video.